You see that? The streetlight. That used to be the universal signal that childhood was over for the day. No phone calls, no texts. Lights on, time to go home. But here's what's insane. Today, I'm going to show you how a child growing up in 1975 had a completely different brain, body, and life experience than a child in 2025. And the science behind it? It'll blow your mind. A team of specialists spent 6 months researching this, interviewing pediatricians, neuroscientists, and educators, and what they found changes everything you thought you knew about kids these days. Stick around, because in the next minutes, I'm going to reveal the one thing from the past that modern research says we desperately need to bring back. Let's go. Let me paint you a picture. It's 1975. You're 8 years old. Your mom kicks you out of the house at 9 a.m. with one instruction: be back when the streetlights come on. And here's the crazy part. This wasn't neglect. This was normal. Studies show that children in the 1970s spent an average of 4 to 5 hours per day playing outside without adult supervision. Today, that number has dropped to less than 30 minutes per week. We're talking about a 90% collapse in just 50 years. But here's where it gets interesting. Researchers at the University of British Columbia did something revolutionary. They studied what they called risky play. That's climbing trees, exploring without adults, playing with tools, rough and tumble play, and what they found was shocking. Kids who engaged in risky play showed lower rates of anxiety and depression, not higher. Lower. Think about that. We've spent 50 years making childhood safer, and our kids are more anxious than ever. Depression rates in teenagers have doubled since 2010 alone. So, what happened? Let me show you. This is what researchers call the range of childhood. How far kids could roam from home without adult supervision. In 1970, the average 8-year-old could roam up to 6 miles from home. By 1990, that dropped to 1 mile. Today, 300 yards. That's smaller than a football field. Great-grandma at age 8, 6 miles. Your grandchild at age 8, 1 block. But here's what no one talks about. During the exact same period that we've restricted children's freedom, actual crime rates against children have fallen dramatically. Stranger abductions, the thing every parent fears, happen to fewer than 350 children per year in a country of 330 million people. You're statistically more likely to be struck by lightning. Yet, we feel like it's more dangerous. Why? 24-hour news cycles, social media, the missing child on every milk carton. We created what sociologists call mean world syndrome. The belief that the world is more dangerous than it actually is. And our kids? They're paying the price. Look at this playground. It's 3:30 p.m. on a weekday. School just got out, and it's empty. When I was growing up, this place would be packed. But here's the thing that really gets me. See this? Modern playground equipment is designed to prevent falls from higher than 2 feet. The monkey bars your grandparents used? 8-10 feet high over asphalt. And you know what? Kids broke bones. Yeah, they did. But researchers at the University of Texas found something remarkable. Kids who experienced minor injuries during play, scraped knees, small falls, developed better risk assessment skills, and were less likely to suffer major injuries later in life. We've bubble-wrapped childhood, and we've created a generation that doesn't know how to assess risk. But the physical stuff? That's just the beginning. What's happened to children's brains is even more incredible. This is where things get really interesting, because neuroscientists have now proven that the way we grew up, playing outside, taking risks, getting bored, literally shaped our brains differently. Let me show you something incredible. Research shows that when someone from the 1970s reads a book for an hour, there's sustained activity in the prefrontal cortex. That's focus, concentration, deep thinking. When a modern teenager switches between TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube, their brain lights up constantly but never sustains focus. Dr. Gloria Mark at UC Irvine studied this. Her findings are terrifying. In 2004, the average person focused on a task for 150 seconds before switching. By 2021, 47 seconds. We've lost 2/3 of our attention span in less than 20 years. But here's what's wild. It's not because our brains got worse. It's because we trained them to be this way. Remember being bored as a kid? Just sitting there, nothing to do, staring at the ceiling. Research now shows that boredom is essential for creativity and problem solving. When researchers at the University of Central Lancashire gave people boring tasks, then asked them to solve creative problems, they performed 40% better than people who were kept entertained. Boredom forces your brain to make its own entertainment. It's like a gym for creativity. Today's kids, they never get bored. There's always a screen, and their creative problem-solving skills are suffering because of it. Now let me tell you about the real villain in this story, dopamine. Dopamine is the reward chemical in your brain. It's what made you feel good when you finally climbed to the top of that tree, or when you built the best fort in the neighborhood. But here's the problem. Every time you get a like, a comment, a notification, bing, dopamine hit. Bing, another hit. Bing, bing, bing. The average teenager receives 237 notifications per day. That's 237 tiny dopamine hits. Their brains are being flooded with reward chemicals for doing absolutely nothing. Dr. Anna Lemke at Stanford calls this dopamine nation. She found that when you overstimulate the dopamine system, your baseline happiness drops. You need more stimulation to feel normal. It's the same mechanism as drug addiction. I'm not being dramatic. The brain patterns are identical. So when we compare a child from 1975 who got dopamine hits from actual achievement, climbing higher, running faster, building something, to a child in 2025 getting dopamine hits from scrolling, we're literally creating different brain chemistry. Now think about everyday life. In 1975, you'd interact with dozens of strangers every day, asking for directions, ordering food, talking to the cashier, playing with neighborhood kids you just met. Every one of those interactions, making eye contact, reading body language, having unscripted conversations, that's how we learned social skills. Kids today are having fewer and fewer of these micro-interactions, and the research shows it's having a massive impact. Dr. Jean Twenge, psychologist at San Diego State University, analyzed data from 11 million teenagers. What she found shocked the research community. Teens today go out less, date less, drive less, work less. They're taking longer to do everything we associate with independence. But here's the kicker. It's not making them happier. Loneliness rates are at an all-time high. A Harvard study found that 61% of young adults report serious loneliness. They're more connected digitally than ever before, but they're lonelier than the generation that wrote letters and waited weeks for responses. Because here's what we figured out the hard way. Connection isn't the same as presence. When you played outside until the streetlights came on, you learned conflict resolution by actually having conflicts. You learned empathy by seeing someone's face when they fell. You learned communication because you had to. There was no texting your way out of an awkward moment. These weren't just soft skills. This was essential human development, and we've replaced it with emoji reactions. Okay, we've talked about brains and emotions, but let's talk about something you can actually see. What happened to kids' bodies? In 1975, childhood obesity affected 5% of children. Today, nearly 20%. That's a fourfold increase. But the obesity stats? Everyone knows those. What they don't know is this. Researchers in the UK compared fitness test results from kids in 1975 to kids today. Same tests, same age groups. The results? Modern 10-year-olds run a mile 90 seconds slower than kids did in 1975. 90 seconds. That's a massive difference. Grip strength? Down 20%. Cardiovascular fitness? Down 15%. But here's what really gets me. This isn't about organized sports. Kids today actually spend more time in organized sports than we did. They've got soccer practice, baseball leagues, gymnastics classes. The difference is what researchers call active free play, running around without a coach, climbing things, riding bikes, just moving. In 1975, kids averaged 4 hours of unstructured outdoor play and 1 hour of organized sports per week. In 2025, it's 30 minutes of unstructured play and 6 hours of organized sports per week. Kids today are more scheduled but less active. They're getting coached, but they're not playing, and their bodies are paying the price. Richard Louv wrote a book in 2005 called Last Child in the Woods. In it, he coined a term that would change how we think about childhood: nature deficit disorder. Now, it's not a medical diagnosis, but the science behind it, that's real. Studies from the University of Illinois found that kids who spent just 20 minutes in a natural setting showed improved concentration and focus compared to kids who spent the same time indoors or in urban environments. Other research found that exposure to nature reduces stress hormones, improves immune function, and even enhances creativity. But here's the stat that breaks my heart. The average American child spends less time outside than a maximum security prisoner. A prisoner gets mandated outdoor time. Our kids? They get recess, if they're lucky, and it's being cut shorter every year. When I was a kid, I knew every tree in my neighborhood. I knew where the creek flooded, where the best climbing branches were, where to find salamanders under rocks. That knowledge? It's called place-based learning, and research shows it creates a sense of belonging, environmental stewardship, and, this is huge, resilience. When you fall in a creek and get wet, you learn that bad things can happen and you survive them. You adapt. Today's kids are growing up in climate-controlled environments, going from climate-controlled cars to climate-controlled schools. They're never too hot, never too cold, never uncomfortable. And while that sounds nice, it's actually creating a generation that can't handle discomfort, because they never learned that discomfort is temporary and survivable. But here's the good news. So we've spent several minutes talking about everything that's changed, everything we've lost. But here's what you're really wondering. Can we get it back? And the answer is yes, but not in the way you think. Remember at the beginning when I said I'd reveal the one thing modern research says we desperately need to bring back? It's not playing outside, though that's important. It's not less screen time, though that helps. It's not even more independence, though kids need that too. The one thing is this: unstructured time. That's it. That's the magic ingredient. See, when we played until the streetlights came on, nobody was directing us. We had to figure out what to do. We had to negotiate with other kids. We had to entertain ourselves. We had to solve problems, real problems, like how to build a ramp for our bikes, or what to do when someone said we couldn't play in their yard anymore. Research from the American Academy of Pediatrics now says that unstructured play is so important that they officially recommend it as essential for healthy child development. But here's what's wild. When they surveyed parents, 90% agreed that unstructured play was important. But when they looked at actual schedules, modern kids have less unstructured time than any generation in history. We know it's important, but we're so afraid our kids will fall behind that we schedule every minute. Behind academically? Research shows that countries with the most unstructured playtime, like Finland, have the best academic outcomes. Behind socially? The best predictor of adult social success is childhood free play, not organized activities. Behind professionally? Studies show that the most important skill employers look for isn't technical knowledge, it's creative problem solving. The kind you learn by having unstructured time to figure things out. So here's what you can actually do. And I'm talking to grandparents here, because you have the wisdom and the power to influence this. Number 1, give them boredom. 1 day a week, no screens, no scheduled activities, just time. It'll be uncomfortable at first, they'll complain, but their brains need it. Number 2, let them take small risks. Climbing a tree won't kill them. Getting lost in a store for 5 minutes teaches navigation. A skinned knee teaches that pain is temporary. Number 3, get them outside but don't organize it. Not hiking with a goal, not nature lessons, just outside with nothing particular to do. Number 4, model real conversation. Put your phone away, make eye contact. Show them what authentic human connection looks like. Number 5, connect them to their place. Show them the neighborhood. Tell them stories about the places you played. Create that sense of belonging to somewhere physical, not just digital. And finally, set boundaries with love. The streetlight coming on wasn't punishment. It was structure. It was knowing that the adults cared enough to set limits while trusting you enough to be independent within them. Today's kids need that too. Not endless freedom, but bounded freedom. Not no rules, but reasonable ones. They need to know that you trust them to be capable while also keeping them safe. So here's the truth. Childhood isn't better or worse now than it was in 1975. It's just different. We've traded broken bones for mental health struggles. We've traded independence for safety. We've traded boredom for constant stimulation. And research is now showing us that maybe, just maybe, some of those trades weren't as good as we thought. But here's the beautiful thing. We can change this, right now, today. You don't need to recreate 1975, but you can give your grandchildren what we had that was truly valuable: time, space, trust, and the chance to learn that they're capable of more than they think. That streetlight? It wasn't just a signal to come home. It was a symbol that said, you're free to explore, and there's a place waiting for you when you're done. That's what childhood should be, and that's what we can give them again. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, share it with a parent or grandparent who needs to hear it. And hey, maybe tonight, tell a kid to go outside and come back when the streetlights come on. Who knows? Maybe they'll thank you for it someday.